Good morning. So I thought I'd play some games with Green Eldrazi, which is a deck I've been playing around with for a little while. I hope this works. It's my first time attempting to do some recording, but I had some students ask me to, so I figured I'd give her a shot. So let's just take a look at the deck that I've got laid out so far. I've been tooling around with it a little bit. Some of it's pretty solid. I've gone with 3 Cavern of Souls here. 1, because they're expensive, and 2, I sacrificed 1 for an additional wastes. I find with all of the Fields of Ruin running around and Blood Moons that the extra waste is good, so that I can always be assured of casting some of my bigger threats at the end. Then the rest of it is pretty straightforward and typical for the lists I've seen running around online. I got 4 temples, I got a Singleton Forest, the 4 Groves of the Burn Willows, which are excellent for Death Shadow matchups, some Carpulsan Forests, which help with my mana fixing, single Kessig Wolf Run, which helps by pumping up some things in the late game, or pumping up some birds if you need to go over top, a Singleton Mountain, a Stomping Ground, and then 2 Wooded Foothills as fetches. When we look at some of the single mana cost pieces, we've got 4 Lightning Bolts, which are good for removal. Still, Lightning Bolt is a great removal piece in Modern. Ancient Stirrings for digging, helps a bit with mana fixing, helps with finding some of my sideboard answers to some of the threats. Then we have a ramp package, which consists of 4 Noble Hierarchs and a Birds of Paradise. The Hierarchs Exalted Trigger is great, and I like the birds. One, it gives me something that can go in the air if I need it, but it also gives me a Singleton Black, which can help reduce the pain of the dismembers. Scavenging Ooze is just a great card. I think it's kind of highly minimized in Modern right now, but decent for graveyard threats. It can get quite big quite fast. Also useful in Burn a little bit for gaining a little life to just help you stay alive long enough to stabilize. The favorite card in my deck here is Eldrazi Obligator. Fast, hasty, 3/1 critter that lets you take a threat and also remove something from their side of the board to help you swing in big. Value Town, Matter Reshaper, of course. I'm playing a couple of Hazarets. Some decks are running Endbringers, but I really like the indestructible nature. It's hasty, so it sort of fits in with the theme of the deck as well. You can get them in, out, and swing for lots. It also helps you deal with some extra cards at the end if you don't really need to play them, and do some more direct damage to the face. Bloodbraid Elf, which is just awesome for speeding up the deck and helping you play, basically everything on this half of the deck here. And then a couple of the other targets that it doesn't hit but are awesome is Thought-Knot Seer, or Thoughtseize on a stick, and then Reality Smasher, which helps finish out the game. We quickly take a look at our sideboard. It's really under flux. There's lots of different sideboards floating around, so I've been playing around with it. This is just the one I've been trying recently. A couple of natural states for dealing with things like Blood Moons and annoying little enchantments that tick me off. Grafdigger's Cage, good for any of those Snapcaster decks or Court of Calling or any of that other kind of fun stuff. Some Ancient Grudges for dealing with interesting artifacts, affinity. Sometimes I'll bring them in when dealing with Tron to try to blow up some of their pieces to slow them down a bit. Another Scavenging Ooze, a couple of Ratchet Bombs. Some people like to run Engineered Explosives, but I find I like Ratchet Bombs better because although Engineered Explosives is a better card, I'm really only playing 2 mana colors, and it's a no-bo off of the Bloodbraid Elf, whereas I can bring this in And my chances of finding a Ratchet Bomb are pretty good with the 4 Ancient Stirrings and the 4 Bloodbraid Elves. Can get it usually into play quite easily. Sorcerer's Spyglass for, Pithing Needle, and I like it better than Pithing Needle, even though it costs 1 more, because it does give me the ability to look at their hand, and sometimes that can be quite useful. Threw in a couple of Pulse of Marassas. Gains the 6 life, I think, is pretty useful. It also allows me to bring back something that gets destroyed early in the game. A single Kozilek's Return to help with some board wipes, and then a single Crumble to Dust. I've never really been good at playing Crumble to Dust, but I do know there's a lot of big mana decks out there, so I threw one in there just in case it could come in to be useful. Anyway, this is the deck I'm going to run, so we'll start a game shortly.